lost. It's like a whole lot of love. Find me out and love can light the way. Got a dream, don't you, child? Memory will fade. The light parade.
Welcome to the Green Zone TV. I'm Wendy Love Edge, and this is our very first episode. I'm thrilled to be here presenting to you the truth about cannabis. The Green Zone is where community, science, activism, and art meet cannabis. Let's start with community. I went out on the street in different locations in and around Fayetteville, Arkansas, to ask people cannabis myth-busting questions. And here's my sidekick, Topher Kogen.
Hey, everybody.
What a fun time out on the streets of Fayetteville. Many people are pretty informed, don't you think?
Yes, but there's also a lot of people that just won't answer, but we'll keep asking because we are Mythbusters, Wendy Love Edge.
We are Mythbusters.
So in this first segment, we're going to show you how folks in Fayetteville answered the question, does cannabis kill brain cells?
This is Wendy Love Edge.
And this is Topher Kogen.
And we are at the University of Arkansas for the Green Zone TV asking people questions about cannabis. Do you think cannabis kills brain cells?
I don't think so, no.
Would you be interested in answering some questions for a local TV show? No, okay. Hi, would you mind answering some questions? I do it myself if I see people sometimes. If I don't feel like talking, you know. Get really busy on my phone.
Do you think that cannabis kills brain cells?
Not that I'm aware of, I don't think. I don't know, maybe I'm unqualified for these questions.
I do not.
Like a flood of people. Cannabis kills brain cells.
Probably not, no.
Okay.
Now let's see what science has to say about this very important question.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Dr. Tammy. We're going to do the nerdy science corner right now, which is my favorite part. And like we talked about with Wendy a while ago, I just want you to remember that the U.S. government actually holds the patent on the antioxidant and neuroprotective effects of cannabinoids. So the government not only knows about the neuroprotective effects of cannabis, they have a patent on it. But I just want you to kind of know that there are actual studies, research-based studies, thousands literally, but I wanted to make sure that you had a few of them here that you could kind of refer to if you want to do some research. This Italian study done in 2013, it was in Neurochemistry International, showed that there's something called a cannabinochromin called CBC. CBD and THC are the main cannabinoids, but this CBC is actually a neuroprotective cannabinoid that's actually in the plant. And they actually studied this, that it boosts the functionality in developing brain cells. There was an Israel study done in 2012, and it talked about stress and rewiring. And a lot of times what people don't talk about when they talk about stress is that stress will actually short circuit your memory, because what it does is it affects the stress part of the brain where you actually form memories, where emotions are attached. So if you are stressed, you're more likely to have short-term memory loss. So people use cannabis as medicine. I'll talk about that in just a second here, but people use cannabis as medicine for stress. There's also a study that was done on Alzheimer's in the US in 2012 in Neuropsychopharm, and it actually showed that THC is protective. Now THC is the one that, the cannabinoid that kind of makes us act a little goofy. I call it catnip for humans. But the beautiful thing about the way we went medical in Arkansas is that you can use low levels of THC, higher levels of CBD or CBC, things that are neuroprotective that are actually going to let you function, especially during the day. And then you can use a little THC at night to help you, more THC at night to help you sleep in those different strains. There has been some question whether edibles versus smoking, and there is a thought that when you actually smoke, that smoke ingested can affect the blood flow some. So it could actually decrease the blood flow to the brain. So I want to talk a little bit about what is memory so that you can understand how the short-term memory is affected when someone uses cannabis. So there's sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. And sensory memory is about 3 seconds. And it's about what you feel, what you're taking in through your environment. And then the short-term memory is about 30 seconds. And then the short-term memory can go into long-term memory. So what causes something to go into long-term memory is if you have emotion attached to it, it has meaning to you, right? So you remember, you hear those songs back from the 80s and it means something to you. You remember those songs, you kind of go back into the moment. Or if there is a survival attached to it, you need to remember that that stove is hot and it will burn you. Or if there's attention paid to something, you know, you mindlessly drive to work and you're not really paying attention, so you're not really going to remember all those events. Or repetition. So, you know, when you were memorizing your times table when you were a kid, repetition, and then it just stuck in there. So these different types of memory are all housed in these receptors in the hippocampus. And so depending on where those memories are affected, whether you have emotion attached to them or if it's a long-term memory thing, all affects how memory assimilates in the brain. And so one of the interesting things is the endocannabinoid system is actually a filter. And the beautiful thing about this is it filters out some of those negative emotions or those negative feelings, which is great if you have PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, depression or anxiety, because it takes those negative feelings out of the memory so you don't remember them as negative. So hope this was helpful. I love this nerdy science stuff. Please share this with your friends and let them know. The more we know, knowledge is power, and we just want to get the word out. We love you all, and we just want to make this as informed as possible. Again, cannabis isn't for everybody, but for people who need it for medicine, know your facts.
My name is Trichome Tina. I had double breast surgery. My stoner confession is I did it all with medical marijuana, no man-made pills. Vote to legalize marijuana.
Now I have a very exciting woman who's a Harvard Medical School doctor, and she has switched up her life because she believes that cannabis is the answer to a lot of medical problems and a lot of cures, and we need to focus more on that. So I would like you to give a warm welcome to Dr. Uma, who's here to talk to us about breakthrough technology and science with cannabis.
Plutonium. That's how they treat cannabis today, okay? And at that point, I was working as a family doctor, as an occupational environmental medicine physician. I was minimizing their exposures, protecting the workers, putting gloves on them, preventative equipment, surveillance exams, monitoring them. And on top of it, I made them pee in a cup, even hair testing. And if they tested for THC, they lost their jobs, okay? Federal site. THC is the chemical, the psychoactive chemical that's in cannabis. That's what we test for. And so to see my mother that was dying of an illness known as idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, fancy term for we don't know what caused your lung disease. My mom had never smoked. She had never ate red meats. She exercised, she maintained her weight, and she did all the right things. She had thyroid problems, she had diabetes, she had cholesterol, she had Lyme's disease, and then what killed her was idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. I never got to use this medicine for her, but that's what started my journey. And 2 days ago, I lost a dear friend of mine, and I'm proud to be here. She died from breast cancer, and she had been treated with chemotherapy and radiation and all. She never tried the cannabis till at the very end. But she would have been very proud because she was here last year, and she loved the paparazzi. So in her name, I celebrate this lecture for you guys today. So my journey about the endocannabinoid system is, in one word, I say life, balance, homeostasis. This system is a mere 600 million years old. It has evolved from the sea squirt to what we have in humans today. In 1964, Dr. Raphael Mechoulam in Israel first discovered THC as the psychoactive component and CBD as the non-psychoactive component, and CBNs to have about 1/10 of the psychoactive component. The Israelis and Jews have always been ahead of the time. And in this program, every Jew had had PTS. And I can relate to PTS with my own illnesses. What I understand was that at that point, years later, this man later found the first endocannabinoid, known as anandamide. And I love this story. He said in the Hebrew language he couldn't find a word for joy. There was plenty of words for sorrow, but not for joy. I think the closest thing was nukas. Nukasamine didn't sound right. So they went to the Sanskrit language and they found the word ananda, joy or bliss. We also found out that there was receptors. The first one identified was CB1, primarily in the brain. A few years later, we discovered a second one known as CB2, primarily in the immune system. These receptors are throughout our body. That's why it works for so many ailments. It's not snake oil. What we learned also was that with the receptors, when you hear about dopamine and serotonin, these are made in the presynaptic, they're released, and they bind to receptors on the post. Our endocannabinoid receptors, or cannabinoid receptors, are not on the post. They're on the pre. So it's a retrograde. It's a balanced system. Dr. Damasio explains this system in 5 beautiful words: to relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. This is my mantra now. Relax, eat, sleep, forget, and protect. This balance, too much or too little of these 5 words, we are in balance. So let's start with relax. If one's muscle was constantly in a spasm or flaccid, imbalance. If we ate too much or not enough. If we slept too much or not enough. If we forgot too much or not enough. People say, why would you want to forget? So just as much as Alzheimer's and dementia is too much forgetting, PTS, if somebody remembered an event over and over, I always say this about childbirth. If a woman remembered childbirth, do you think you'd ever have sex again? Right? Men wouldn't be getting laid. So that's another conversation. Protection. Too much or too little. Overprotection. Autoimmune, rheumatoid, or arthritis. If our body can't protect, immunocompromised. So these 5 words are balance. We also learn that this system, when it doesn't work properly, we learn now about an endocannabinoid deficiency. Okay? This makes a lot of sense to me. If we think of a deficiency, it's not that you're an addict, you're replacing something you need. So we've learned too little of your endocannabinoids, anandamide, when we realize that migraines, fibromyalgia, MS, all of these different illnesses, IBS, are related to a deficiency. What I truly understand is that I did not know about this system, and to this day, less than 15% of the medical schools still teach it. How could we do that? There should be blood on people's hands when we don't let healthcare providers know about a system that's about life, and it's still not known. So go out and ask your healthcare providers, what do you know about the endocannabinoid system? I want people to know 5 things here. Cannabis has killed nobody, 0 deaths. We're facing an opioid epidemic, 47,000. This is an option. As I say, cannabis is not for everybody, but it should be a first-line option, not the last resort. Okay? Truly. Your disease doesn't go away because you cross a state line. Why are we having separation for this medicine to be allowed throughout the nation? Number 2, the US government has a patent for this medicine and has had it since 2003 as an antioxidant and neuroprotectant. They've had the patent and several others. Number 3, this was prescribed by doctors. Today, I do not get to prescribe this medicine. I only get to recommend it because it's in Schedule 1 along with heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. Unacceptable, folks. Should not be. I'm fighting for it to be descheduled, not rescheduled. And that's a big difference, folks. If it gets rescheduled, it will be in the hands of pharmacy. The other thing I want you to understand is that we need this to be available for everybody. We need a specialty for doctors to know about endocannabinoid medicine. We need labeling. We need standardizations that can happen. And we want to see a dial. Two types of stains that I want to just talk about, sativas and indica. Most things are a hybrid. Sativas, I think of sunshine. When does the sun shine? Usually in the daytime. Indica, I think of insomnia, nighttime use, but most things, see how it works. Delivery systems, you can inhale it, you can ingest it, you can put it in yourself topically or other ways. Suppositories that are being used rectally, vaginally, whole lot of delivery systems. Inhalation, I just want to leave you guys with, just as I said, it was counterintuitive. Inhalation is a very rapid method. Smoking is a very good method. And vaporization, just as the content. People always ask, what about smoking and lung cancer? A study was done that looked at 4 groups. People that did nothing, smoked nothing, people that smoked tobacco, people that smoked cannabis, and people that did both. The group that smoked cannabis had the least amount of lung cancers, less than the people that smoked nothing. You think it could be preventative. The other thing is that the groups between smoking and tobacco and smoking, people that use cannabis had less cancer than the people that use tobacco alone. I want you people to understand the importance of stigma. We started out this morning about saying, I am. I am getting involved. I'm here informing you guys. Get involved, get the information, be proactive about your life. And as Fran said, remember what you put in you. Hemp, cannabis was in this country as food, fuel, fiber, paper, and medicine. We replaced it with the Hertz, DuPont, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Mellon, and one badass mouthpiece that was Harry Anslinger. So let's all get the information. I want to leave you with my words. Cannabis is not an entrance drug. It's an exit drug from pharmaceuticals and narcotics. God bless. Thank you.
So fantastic to know the truth. Be informed, be empowered. Next up, we're going to show you an interview with Mark Kenyon, City Council member and candidate for the Arkansas House of Representatives. A longtime member of NORML, Mark is no stranger to activism. And after that, we have a public service announcement from Corey Hunt, founder of Illegally Healed. He's going to tell you how you can contact your representative if you have comments, questions, or concerns about cannabis. Welcome to the Green Zone, Mark.
It's my pleasure to be here.
So, Mark, you are a District 86 Democratic candidate for the Arkansas House of Representatives. And you have a strong record of progressive leadership here in Arkansas. But today we're here to talk about cannabis and how it relates to healthcare.
Talking about cannabis, sometimes people are afraid to talk about it in public if they're politically active, and I'm not afraid of it. I am an activist as early as the 70s, whenever I was a young man starting in college. I joined NORML not because I was a big user of recreational marijuana, but because of civil justice. Because at the time during the Watergate era, it was evident to me that there was a use of cannabis to victimize minorities and hippies.
Absolutely, and it sounds like you're for medical freedom. One doesn't have to be a cannabis user or enthusiast to be for medical freedom. You were talking earlier about the criminal aspect, and that's something that I'm definitely interested in, and seeing decriminalization and the end of the drug war. So what are your thoughts about that?
If you look especially in the 70s, whenever cannabis was, or marijuana specifically, was classified as a, the same type of drug as opiates. And you mentioned war on drugs. It was used specifically. You can listen to the Watergate tapes, the Nixon tapes, where he points out, we want this to be used so that we can get the hippies and the blacks. I mean,
It's
how
so
direct is
despicable.
that? It is despicable. It seems unbelievable. And still, in this day and age, how many years ago was that, 40? We know that the criminalization of cannabis overloads the system, and it can be used to target individuals that otherwise are very much productive in society and should not be part of the system in that way where they're vilified.
Right, and here in Fayetteville there's a drug task force, and quite a bit of money was spent on the drug task force, and there is, it appears anyway, that there's some targeting of marginalized groups like you mentioned.
Well, I hope not in Fayetteville specifically. In fact, Matthew Petty and I brought to City Council a resolution that classified marijuana as the lowest priority for our police task force, our police force.
Thank you.
And
Thanks
so
much.
I think that was certainly a public commitment that in Fayetteville we were not going to use this as a device to marginalize anyone. You can look through the history of cannabis as a medicine, and there are so many well-documented uses for the cannabis. You can certainly, we know that for seizure control, for Parkinson's disease, neuromuscular control, for pain control, it's certainly safer than NSAIDs or aspirin.
Absolutely. In my history, I'm a cannabis patient, and I replaced 14 of the 16 drugs that I was taking and got rid of all those interactions and side effects. So I understand what you're talking about, and it's really important that people realize that this is medicine to treat all of these different ailments.
The PTSD patient often can get relief with a cannabis product. And why can't we realize that if a person wants to use this as an option, why should it be outlawed to prevent the use of that?
Yes, absolutely. For you and for everyone else. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm passionate about this, and to be able to speak in a public forum and not to be apologetic or to be timid, but also to get the real information out there for individuals that may be considering alternative therapies. I think that's real important. So thank you for having me, and I think that your program will be getting some real information out there to individuals that may be looking for an alternative or maybe are not satisfied with the therapy that they currently are using. So thank you.
Thank you.
Let's talk about how we can improve the Arkansas Medical Cannabis Program. You see, here in Arkansas, the House of Representatives has 100 members. It represents 100 separate districts statewide. It's important that you understand that your state representative works for you. As a constituent, your voice matters. Now, I've been in the Arkansas State Capitol. I've been to Washington, D.C. And let me tell you, there are paid lobbyists everywhere. There's big money in politics, and what's true about America is even stronger today, and that's that your voice matters. Your voice is bigger than any big money. Now more than ever, these politicians, they're listening to you as constituents, and they understand that their job is on the line. If you call your state representative and demand that they protect the will of the people of Arkansas and protect medical cannabis patients with their vote in 2019, you will make a difference. There are many things about the Arkansas Medical Cannabis Amendment that need to be amended to further protect and provide for critically ill patients across the state. So here's how you can find your state representative. First, visit arkansashouse.org. At the top of the page, you'll enter your street address, zip code, and press search. Scroll down and you'll see a name, picture, and a phone number of your representative. Call them. If you're looking for what to say, try this. Hello, Representative Johnson. My name is Corey, and I live in your district. I'm calling you today to let you know that I support medical cannabis in Arkansas, and I want you to vote for issues that support the will of the people. It is now our constitutional right to have safe and legal access to medical cannabis in an environment that's tested and regulated for safety. Please support sensible medical cannabis bills in 2019. So call them, tell them that. Let us know here at the Green Zone what they said. And if you need any extra help, or if you need help writing a letter campaign or anything like that, check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all the grams, all the socials. You'll find us everywhere. Green Zone TV. Back to you guys.
Up next, musician, producer, multi-instrumentalist, activist, and hippie Jory Costello has provided us with a music video. It's called Where My Keys At, and it's an original song that she created for this episode.
Where my keys at? I thought I left them by the door. Where my keys at? Already checked the dresser drawer. Where my keys at? Did I drop them on the floor? Where my keys at? Where my keys at? I keep on looking for my keys. Can't find them. This hinders my mobility. Can't find them. Can't get to where I'm supposed to be. Can't find them. Can't find them. Where can I find my flipping keys? Whoa. Where did I leave my flipping keys? Whoa. Oh. Under the seat, on the table, or the patio? Did they fall behind the shelf next to the radio? Between the cushions or in yesterday's pants pockets? If I leave the house now, I can't even lock it. Where my keys at? I thought I left them by the door. Where my keys at? Already checked the dresser drawer. Where my keys at? Did I drop them on the floor? Where my keys at? Where my keys at? I keep on looking for my keys. Can't find them. I'm begging, crawling on my knees. Can't find them. I'm cussing, screaming pretty please. Can't find them. Can't find them. Where did I leave my flipping keys? Why can't I ever find my keys? Are they floating in an alternate reality? Did the goblins take them underground stealthily? Did they get sucked up in a wormhole sent to outer space? Orbiting the galaxy, can't find them any place. Where my keys at? I thought I left them by the door. Where my keys at? Already checked the dresser drawer. Where my keys at? Did I drop them on the floor? Where my keys at? Where my keys at? Clear my mind, retrace my steps. I've got to find these keys or else. I close my eyes and use my intuition. They'll be right where I left them. There they are in the ignition.
Well, that about does it for the Green Zone TV today. Till next time, this is Wendy Love Edge.
And Topher Kogen.
And we want to remind you, live into your greatness.
Stay elevated.
Be informed. Stay in the Green Zone. All right, that was good.
This is Wendy Love Edge.
And this is Topher Kogen. We're all in the Green Zone. We want everyone in the Green Zone.
The Green Zone, where community, art, and a bunch of other great things meet cannabis. Okay. Hopefully that madness works out.